Meetings Act, which is posted on the west wall of the meeting room and accessible to all members of the public. Would you now stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first up, we have the consent agenda. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the consent agenda as presented. Approval of minutes of the regular Board of Education meeting on November 8th, 2021. Approval of the proposed accounts for payment. Approval of budgetary receipts and expenditures for November 2021. Approval of Committee of the Whole minutes, December 2nd, 2021. Approval of the resignation of Megan Cherry, high school art teacher, and excuse the absence of Doris Martin.
I have a motion, and I have a second by Aaron. All right, Jason, did you have some numbers?
Yeah, just some basic treasurer's report numbers for the month of December. Payroll and benefits totaled $1,709,753. Bills, $574,190, which brings our total monthly expenditures to $2,283,944. At this point in the budget cycle, we're 3 months in, so September, October, November are over with. So that means into the budget cycle, we've expended 23.62% of our budget, and if we're following the 8.33 rule, which is a good rule to follow, we would have expended 24.99%. So we're still under budget, 3 months in, which is a good sign, and that's kind of what we use to track the budget with. So we're in good shape. Just need to continue that trend.
All right, anybody have any comments or questions for Jason? Hearing none, can I have your votes, please? All right, that is approved, 6 votes, Doris not voting. All right, next up, Business Friend of the Month, Mr. Alexander.
Yeah. All right. If Grant, you can join me at the front here. Okay, come on down. So, as always, at our board meetings, we try and pick a business friend of the month that represents some positivity in our district and support of our school system. We're honored this month to recognize the Jones Insurance Group, specifically Grant Jones, as our Business Friend of the Month. Grant has been instrumental in nearly all aspects of supporting our schools. Whether it be from a business aspect or a personal standpoint, he has always been there when we have needed him, and there's been times when we've needed him. From an insurance standpoint, when the school encountered a lightning strike last summer, Grant was right beside us all the way through and making sure we recovered all the lost electrical and technical equipment that was damaged during the storm. He's been extremely helpful, patient, and attentive to all of our needs moving through that situation as a business, and we appreciate that greatly. From the simplest situation of getting coverage on our vehicles to the most complex of helping us work our way through the builder's insurance needed for our next building project, he is always there and a phone call away for whatever we might need him for. Even more importantly, I think Grant might have, in his past life, been an educator.
Just raised by one.
Just raised by one. He seems to get the concept of what education is all about. He's always helping our school in some way on a personal level. He not only coaches our youth programs in the community in the summer, during the school year, and anytime he possibly can be involved, but he also supports all of them financially. I don't think you can find a t-shirt that's handed out at a camp or any activity in this district that doesn't have the Jones Insurance Group brand on it. Grant is always supportive of our Beatrice Public Schools, and we want him to know how much we appreciate him and the Jones Insurance Group this evening. So would you please join me in giving him a round of applause. And Grant, we have a plaque and a certificate there just to recognize you, and we want you to know we appreciate you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
All right, next up, we have All-State Softball, and I don't know who is handling that.
I believe that's Mr. Brown.
Okay.
We had 2 all-state softball selections this year. We don't have certificates yet, but Avery was first team for the Omaha World Herald, and Riley was second team. They were also 2 of the top 3 go-getters for all conference softball. So as you see, they just came from basketball practice also, so they're multi-sport athletes. We really enjoy it. But they first and second team all-state, which is a great honor for them. So besides being excellent athletes and hard workers, they're 2 of the nicest kids you'll ever meet too. So very polite. Both think this several times for the day. So let's give them a round of applause.
I actually do have a certificate for each one of them. If you would like to come up, I will. Well, actually, if you would like to do that.
And girls, if we can get a picture of you guys with Mr. Brown, that would be great. Thank you. We'd like to send this out on our Friday email.
Sure.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'm sure it's gonna be a struggle.
You're welcome to stay for the entire meeting if you'd like to.
They have finals to study for.
Oh, yeah, sure. Finals. Thank you for representing us, ladies. We appreciate your hard work.
All right, next up, we have the information portion of our meeting. Student update, Connor Hamilton.
Okay, so starting with Lincoln and Stoddard, our high school show choir got to tour the elementary schools last week, and so Lincoln and Stoddard really enjoyed those. Those kids had a lot of fun with that. MAPS testing is showing promising results in their growth, so that's huge for them. And then students and staff are gearing up for a strong finish this week, and hoping for a good winter break for both of them. And then, so moving on to Paddock, students also enjoyed the high school show choir's performance, and they're also working very hard in their schoolwork, and are also ready for a good winter break. At the middle school, so students raised over $2,200 for the Gage County Christmas wish list, and from that, students were able to purchase gifts for children in need. So that's huge for those kids that aren't as fortunate. So good for them. And then winter sports teams did well in their second quarter action, and they're looking forward to their sports in the spring for second semester. And then the high school choir, like I said, choirs got to tour the schools last week and did an excellent job. And sounds like they're looking really good for their competition season, second semester. Boys basketball moved to 3-0 after a win against Aurora on Saturday. They play Platteview tomorrow night at 7:45. Girls basketball moved to 2-0 on Thursday night at Crete. They also play Platteview tomorrow night at 6. Boys and girls wrestling are both doing very, very well as they start their seasons. The boys have now pulled away with 2 tournament wins and multiple individual championships. Just off the top of my head, Cole Moshman ended up with his 100th career win at their first tournament. So that's just the only individual thing I've got for you. And then swim and dive is also doing very well. Multiple of our competitors from Beatrice, and I guess I can include Norris too. They've already qualified for their state meet, so that's great. Cheer and dance teams have been phenomenal at basketball games and wrestling tournaments. Just wanted to recognize them. They're doing a great job. And then I kind of talked on the staff big time a couple of months back, but as we wrap up this semester, I think it's important that I recognize them again. In my 7th semester at Beatrice High School, I don't think I've had a better staff at the high school. And being in this position, I've also been able to take note of and observe staff and faculty at other schools in our district, and it's not just the high school. We have a great staff and faculty, and so I just wanted to recognize them and thank them for all that they've done this first semester, and I think we're all ready for a great second semester.
Thank you, Connor.
I think also we should recognize Connor for the excellent job he did at the state school board conference in November, representing Beatrice Public Schools on our behalf, and that was very nice to see. So, good job, Connor. Thank you.
He did a fantastic job and sounded very intelligent. So, which is better than I do half the time. So, next up we have the board reports, committee of the whole. Doris is gone, so I will read her report. Mr. Alexander introduced Vanessa is it Schutte? Schutt? With DLR Group, and her and Aaron Pearson and Allie Smith presented for DLR. Then we also had BCDM present. These are the architects that we've been looking at for doing our project. And Pat Carson and Matthew Arion, hey, there we go. With BCDM, they presented a PowerPoint presentation for the board as well. Then Dr. Nielsen went over the 22-23 school calendar, which we will be voting on later tonight. And then we had a policy update. Mr. Suter came and talked to us for quite a while, and we had great discussion. Then Jason went over a few more articles with us before we wrapped it up, and that's that report. Now the stance report. Is there anything to report?
Really no new updates from the stance world. We have a meeting this week, towards the end of the week. Kind of an legislative organizational meeting before the unicameral will kick off in January. So basically we've met just to touch base, but not a whole lot of information exchange at this point, just kind of waiting to see what happens in the first few days of the unicameral as it kicks off. We do have this week a meeting scheduled with Senator Dorn and Senator Brandt at ESU 5, and we are also hosting Senator Dorn Thursday morning. The stance organization is specifically in regards to the new state aid formula that was presented at the state conference. So we just want to have an opportunity to talk to him about how it specifically relates to each of our schools. So the superintendents from Southern, Dill Rodell, and Wilbur Claytonia will be here on Thursday morning to meet with Myron, and we'll just basically have a conversation and give him a chance to ask us questions about that new formula as it's been presented and how it directly affects each one of our schools. And then we'll be meeting with him and Senator Brandt on Thursday morning at the issue.
All right, thank you. Negotiations committee, Mrs. Byers.
The negotiations committee has met 3 times. We will meet again tomorrow night, but we just have negotiations continuing. We've had really great dialogue with them this year, so I'm not sure when we'll be settled.
Okay. SNEA, Mr. Alexander.
Yeah, the first meeting of the Southeast Nebraska Education Agency was held on November 15th. The meeting was held in the BPS boardroom. The 2 main agenda items at that time were to, number 1, elect officers, which were myself, chairperson, Dr. Brenda McNeff, secretary, and John Zimmerman, treasurer. The next meeting will be held next week, and I think we pinned down a day today. I think it's Tuesday, if I'm not wrong. Is that right?
Monday at noon.
Okay, Monday at noon, thank you. And so we'll be, at that meeting, we'll be looking at specifically confirming the architecture firm selection tonight, and talking about policies that are in your packet that board will have to adopt in order to move forward with the CMAR at risk process that we'll be moving into. So that's where we're headed in the next couple of weeks and where we've been in the past.
And another good example of if you don't show up, you get elected to something you may not want, so always show up to meetings. Next up, we have the public forum citizens request portion of our meeting. Was there anyone who wished to speak tonight at this point? Okay, if you would come up to the desk and state your name and address. And then we'll have 5 minutes per person.
Hello, my name is Joseph Brewer, 1201 North 11th Street here in Beatrice. And really it comes down for me, why I'm here tonight is regarding the pre-K through 5 building project and I guess long-term superintendent and really just kind of administrator evaluations associated with our school district. I guess some of the discussions I've heard regarding our new pre-K through 5 revolve around trying to increase student enrollment, get people to move here. As part of some of the things associated with it, and really as a whole, for me, I'm not seeing where this is going long term. We built a brand new high school here not too terribly long ago in all reality. We've had declining enrollment in our high school ever since. We struggle here, in my opinion, with a lack of identity. Pretty much almost every school district around us, outside of maybe 2 within a 50-mile radius of here, really outperforming us in almost every metric regarding reading proficiency, math proficiency, ACT scores. I'm not one to specifically state that we need to be a college preparatory high school. I don't know if that's necessarily the best route to go per se, but I do think if we're going to try to compare, we're going to try to bring people in. The reality is that the high schools directly surrounding us are typically rated higher than we are as a whole. And unless we can change our image, which typically runs around, let's say 900 schools in the entire state, we are rated about 446th. We are an average school district by every outside metric that P scores by almost every surrounding school district, including Southern. Our reading and math proficiency scores are substantially lower than places like Diller, Odell, Norris, and Freeman. I don't know the answers to that in these questions, but I have my concerns that putting in a bunch of money into a pre-K through 5 school, which I don't disagree that we need, is going to answer those questions. And I don't think it's going to be a solution that we're hoping for to try to drive enrollment in our district or to grow our town. I think we have some underlying issues that need to be addressed, and putting taxpayers on a hook for tens of millions of dollars with the hopes that things are going to get better, I don't think is necessarily going to be the case given our history here with our new high school we built in the late 90s. Our test scores have consistently dropped, our reading and math proficiencies have consistently dropped, and our enrollment has dropped. I think, in some of my involvements with the school board, and specifically like strategic planning, I think we have a lot of things that we can be proud of. Our sports, as was talked about at length tonight, is typically rated quite well. For me, that's not why I send my kids here, and that's not what my kids are here for, though, is they're here to get an education. Sports is a nice addition, but they're here for school. I would hate for us to go down a route with the school that's going to leave a bad taste in everybody's mouth if 10 years down the road we're still underperforming and things haven't improved with respect to enrollment and town growth. Even though we're trying to bring the best and the brightest teachers in, I think an average rating across the board for every single one of our schools, including the middle schools and all of the elementary schools, is going to be a tough hill to climb with respect to getting teachers here if we don't potentially start seeing some improvements sooner rather than later in some of our reading and math proficiency scores. So I would have a hope anyway that as we go forward and we're looking at ways to evaluate our district and the way things are going, that we have some solid metrics that we're actually trying to achieve going forward, where we want to be as a school district, where we want to get to.
30 seconds.
Diller Odell, for example, is a top 20 school in the state. It's going to be hard for us to compete for educators when we have one of the highest rated schools literally just outside of our doorstep here. So thank you for your time. I have a Windsor concert to go to, and thank you.
Before you leave,
Yeah.
just 3 quick questions. Did you attend any of our needs presentation meetings that we held?
I have not been able
Okay. Second question, can I ask where you got your statistics from?
US News does annual school ratings. I went through the ACT online, ACT.org for all the ACT statistics. The state has various places that it's published rating and math proficiency scores for all the districts in the state. So, I mean, I spent probably, I would say 15 to 30 hours trying to find consistent resources associated with that. So I have some of it I can provide if that is.
I'm just curious where you came up with the 900 schools in the state of Nebraska.
That is what's listed out for total, like all pre-K through 5th, middle schools and high schools. So not just high school
Okay.
related, but these are all the schools total. So
Okay.
within the, say for the high school side of things, I believe there's somewhere around 290-ish or so, and I think we're rated like 143 approximately. So
Okay. Also, are you open to discussion
Always.
regarding this presentation that you brought tonight?
always.
Okay.
So, always available. Like I said, I want the best for our district and I want to help us. That was part of my conversations with the strategic planning. I am concerned we don't have a great direction on where we're trying to go, and I want us on an education basis to be able to get to a place where we are a top rated school in the state. So,
Well, we did appreciate your involvement in the strategic planning process. Thank you.
Hi, next up.
Ashley Mason, 1300 Lincoln Street. Last month, I was invited to the Willow Center's annual banquet fundraiser, and I was surprised to find out that not a single representative from our school board, our city council, or our county level was in attendance. When I asked the coordinator about that, they hadn't even crossed their mind to invite any of you to attend their meeting. So I'm here tonight to invite you to attend their annual event next year in November. This resource is available to everyone within the community. And with the growing number of teen pregnancies in our Beatrice district, I think it's really important that everybody be aware of the resources we have available to them so that they can have their needs met at every level. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Was there anyone else who wished to speak tonight? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to discussion portion of our meeting. First up, policies for construction manager at risk. Mr. Alexander.
Certainly. So in front of you, or in your attached in your Spark documents, I think you got copies tonight too as well. The policies that are presented, these are policies that the Southeast Nebraska Education Agency will be adopting. And basically what they are is, in order to make sure that the two boards work synonymously together, the SNEA will be adopting these policies next week. These basically mirror the construction policies that you are working on as a Board of Education, the 7000 series that we'll be adopting. And what they do is act in the ability to be able for the SNEA to operate in conjunction with the policies that you use. So we move forward with the construction manager at risk. The actual contract with the construction manager and the architect will be held with the SNEA, since they are the agency that will be receiving the funding and paying the expenditures. That contract actually lies with them. But what it does, what this set of policies does is it allows the SNEA to work on your behalf with that construction manager at risk, utilizing the same policies. This is just an abbreviated version of those. So everything is statutorily and legally outlined in this set of policies, just like it is in your policies, but in an abbreviated fashion. no action you need to take, I just want you to be aware of it.
Any comments or questions for Jason? All right, next up, the action portion. Dr. Nielsen, you have the school calendar. Can I have a motion for that?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the 2022-23 school calendar as presented.
Second. Second by Aaron. All right, you're up.
Okay, are there any questions at this point in time about the calendar?
Has anything changed from committee of the whole?
Nothing has changed. Nope. Okay, well, if there are no questions, I think we move forward.
All right. As such, can I have your votes, please? All right, that is approved. 5 votes, 1 abstain. All right. Next up, we have the approval and adoption of the resolution regarding the Little Blue Natural Resources. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve and adopt the resolution, which is, whereas the Federal Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000 was signed into law on October 30th, 2000, placing an emphasis on state and local mitigation planning for natural hazards and requiring communities to adopt a hazard mitigation action plan to be eligible for pre-disaster and post-disaster federal funding for mitigation purposes. And whereas a multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan was prepared by the Little Blue Natural Resources District and the Lower Big Blue Natural Resources District with assistance from JEO Consulting Group, Inc. of Lincoln, Nebraska. And whereas the purpose of the mitigation plan was to lessen the effects of disasters by increasing the disaster resistance of the natural resources districts and participating jurisdictions located within the planning boundary by identifying the hazards that affect the Beatrice Public Schools and prioritize mitigation strategies to reduce potential loss of life and property damage from those hazards. And whereas the Nebraska Emergency Management Agency and FEMA reviewed and approved the Little Blue Natural Resources District and the Lower Big Blue Natural Resources District Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan update as of October 25th, 2021. And whereas FEMA regulations require documentation that the plan has been formally adopted by the governing body of the Beatrice Public Schools in the form of a resolution, and further requesting approval of the plan at the federal level. And now, therefore, the governing body of the Beatrice Public Schools does herewith adopt the FEMA-approved Little Blue Natural Resources District and the Lower Big Blue Natural Resources District Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan update in its entirety, and passed and approved this 13th day of December 2021.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second by Aaron. Any comments or questions?
So for the purposes of the audience sake, I'll just kind of summarize everything that just took place there. The Federal Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000 placed a new emphasis on hazard mitigation and natural disaster planning. Beatrice Public Schools, in conjunction with the County Emergency Management Program Coordinator Lisa Wiegand and several other area agencies or public boards, went through a planning process that started basically late last summer and went throughout the course of the year. During that entire process, we developed a plan that helps obviously try and mitigate the loss of life during a natural disaster situation. As we can see by the events of just this week, it's very important to have a plan in place. One of those plans, a part of that plan includes tornado shelters, and so it is now a requirement that every school have a tornado shelter in it, and we are planning for that. We will be planning for that as we speak. So approval of this resolution tonight signifies support of the planning process that Beatrice Public Schools went through, and that the Little Blue Natural Resources District and the Lower Big Blue Natural Resources District multi-jurisdictional just jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan that we all the combined efforts of everybody involved in that. The board is voting on supporting that plan as well. Essentially, this allows us to be eligible for any federal FEMA relief funds in future events that may come along our way if they become available, and also make us eligible for application for the FEMA dollars for a tornado shelter in our new PK5 building.
All right, anybody have any comments or questions for Jason?
I have a question. I have a question.
Do you wish to answer a question?
I would say we don't interact with the board with the audience during a public meeting, Hal, but if you want to come in and ask your question tomorrow, I'd be glad to answer that for you.
Okay.
All right, can I have your votes, please? All right, that is approved with 6 votes. Next up, can I have a motion for 8.3?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 authorize its NSEA representatives to select an architect as the architect for the PK5 elementary building and take all other necessary action to negotiate and enter into a contract with an architect for architect services.
I have a motion by Janet, can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Aaron. All right, Jason, would you like to kick this off?
Yeah, basically, it kind of goes back to the explanation earlier. Since the SNEA, the Southeast Nebraska Agency, will actually be the owner of the building, and the revenue from the bond proceeds will be in their name holding in the bank, and they will actually be responsible for paying the expenditures as the flow through. The SNE agency will hold that contract with the architect. Now, that will also be the case with the CMAR. So these actions that we're taking may seem a little bit redundant or duplicative in nature, but it's all required in order to make sure that the SNEA is represented as the holder of those contracts by you as a board. So you as a board are actually selecting the architect tonight. That recommendation will then go to the SNEA next week and be approved to begin the process of designing a building to meet the specifics that you're out for. So all the information that we received last week was given to you in terms of the actual figures involved with that, and I can cover those in more detail if we need to, but again, it comes down to you selecting an architect this evening, and then that recommendation will be taken to the SNEA next week to be approved by them and enter into a contract with an architect to move forward.
John, could I put an amendment on the motion
What was that?
to include the name, or include the firm BCDM as the potential or selected architect?
You need a second on that? I'll second that.
All right, so far we have a motion to amend with BCDM being chosen the architect of choice. Was there anyone else who wished to comment on that?
My only comment would be that they were very impressive. Both agencies do incredible work, but I think the presentation from BCDM that we had at our last meeting was just very tailored to our district, and I loved that they focused on relationships. And they truly want to create a relationship with our district above building something for us. That was important to me, but they were impressive.
I would agree with Aaron. I think what I was impressed with the BCDM was, again, that relationship side and maybe more of an ongoing partnership and not such a cookie cutter, here's kind of potentially what you can get and, you know, size it to what you need and so forth. So the gentleman that presented, I really truly feel we'll have a good partnership if we move forward with that group.
Doris had said, she sent an email, she's not here and will not be voting, but she had said that she thinks it's in the best interest of the district to select BCDM as the architectural firm. She believes that the firm will offer the opportunity for us to make this building best fit our students' needs and at a reasonable price. And I'll agree with what they've said so far. Now DLR, I've worked with them for 5 years, and they've been fantastic. And what they would present, again, for what we need, would be top notch, and would have no problems with them. I really don't have a problem with either one of the architectural firms. One thing I have noticed with BCDM, since I've met with them and talked to them, they really put, it's a student first type of mentality, and they really care about the students, and they go more from the direction of what best suits the students, as opposed to going from the what's the best way to set up a building and then how do we fit it towards the students at that point. So I agree that BCDM is a very good choice for us. Anyone else wish to comment?
Yeah, I think BCDM would be a great choice also. We can't go wrong. It's a win-win situation. Either company had amazing ideas, but I would like to agree that BCDM would be my choice as well.
And I would agree with that also. One of the things I really liked is that we have a fresh set of eyes looking at our district. We have worked with DLR numerous times, and I think it's really good to have another organization come in and take a look at what we have. And they talked so much about student needs, and I thought that was really important. So.
Although I would like to point out though, the tour of DC West was, it was so eye-opening for me personally. Just daydreaming and just getting excited about what the future holds for our kids, and also kind of sad too. As I was driving back, I was thinking about what they had been missing out this whole time, and a couple things I took away from that, and I'm looking forward for the new building, are just the little things. Like on that tour, I realized two major things: the lighting and the noise. It almost was like they weren't in session. It was built with acoustic balance where it was so quiet, and the lighting, it was ingenious where all the settings had natural light, daylight, and LED light, and they also were able to dim it because the studies prove that noise and light, even we take them for granted, but in our schools are very important for a child's ability to learn. And like in every room you went to, the light was dimmed a little bit, or it was natural light, or whatever the case. And I asked one of the teachers, and she explained to me, I'm like, that's genius. And so, yeah, I appreciate that tour in that building, and so I'm just very excited. I think this is an amazing step forward for our school community, and I think that's a great thing that we're doing. And I appreciate both of the companies.
Yeah, I agree. DLR should be applauded for that. The school that they put on at DC West, it was amazing. All right, if no one else has any more comments, can I have your votes, please? All right, that is approved with 6 votes, stating that BCDM will be the architect of choice. Next up, approval of superintendent's evaluation. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the superintendent's evaluation.
I have a motion by Janet. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Aaron. All right, you all had, we went over the superintendent evaluation last week, and, not last week, last month at the board meeting. And so this is basically just a chance to approve it. Anybody have any comments or questions over what we discussed?
Yeah, before I
go
vote
ahead.
tonight,
Mhm.
I'd like to be recognized by the board.
Absolutely.
I came on to this school board at a very divisive time. During the COVID restrictions where lines in the sands were drawn in, it was a very toxic environment.
I did not approve of how the superintendent handled COVID, but the blame cannot just fall on him, but on the board as well. It was a very uncertain and distracting time with a lot of politics being played on us, and I feel that we took our eyes off of why we are up here, our children. So I ask those out there who do not approve of Mr. Alexander, what if COVID didn't happen? What would your opinion be of him? I ask myself that often. What you don't see is what I didn't see either before I came on this board. You only know him by what happens here. And yes, it was not pretty at times during the COVID, but we made it through it. And I feel that we are building trust again. So let me tell you what I see. He is underestimated in the job that he actually does. I am a fiscally conservative type of guy, and this district financially is sound. And it is attributed to his leadership. What is very important to me and all of us right now is this new school. We are getting a new school building because of his aggressive push for it. This is a tough job for sure for all of us up here on the board. Giving a voice to our constituents, but also balancing that with what we know from our experience and work on the board. At the end of the day, for me personally, I will never let my emotions and my personal feelings interfere with my decisions on this board. And all that matters to me is what is best for our kids and their future. Our administration team is doing an amazing job, and I think they truly value him as a leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Anybody else have any comments or questions? All right, can I have your votes, please? And as approved, it was 6 votes. Next up, approval of superintendent contract. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the superintendent contract with Jason Alexander.
I have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, Mrs. Byers, this is all up to you.
The negotiations committee was looking at the superintendent's salary, and as we do with certified staff, we look at where they are midpoint. So I asked Mr. Alexander to pull, and he pulled 22 different superintendent salaries and contracts, and I really appreciated the fact that he gave me the information, but he also gave me each one of the contracts, so if I wanted to double check, which I did, the figures that he had, that they were accurate, so he was very transparent in making sure that I was comfortable with it and our negotiations team was comfortable with it. What we found is Beatrice ranks number 10 out of 22 schools as far as the size of our district. The base salary ranks 13 out of 22 schools, but the total package ranks 17th out of 22 schools. His years of service, he ranks number 3 out of 22 superintendents. So anyway, based on those findings, we suggested that we go with an overall package of 2.97% as an increase. That does include insurance, which the medical insurance increased by 6.14% this year. And medical and dental insurance increased by 5.84%, so the overall increase for insurance was 5.84%. Again, to try to move him up into more of a midpoint was one of the goals that our committee looked at. And right now, with the increase that we're proposing, it would move him up to about number 13. However, that's looked at based on the old salaries for the other superintendents, so we know that they're going to have increases because of the insurance. So that's where we came up with the recommendation of 2.97%.
Well, and thank you, Jenna, for going through all the contracts and paperwork. I agree. He has done a fantastic job over the past year, especially bringing this together with the school and finding a way for us to move forward on that front. And it was another way of being able to bring something together that did not put any more pressure upon the taxpayers and community. So I feel that this is a good contract that we should go ahead and go with the 2.97. So, anyone else have any comments or questions for Janet? All right, hearing none, can I have your votes, please? All right, that is approved, 6 votes. All right, administrators report, superintendent report, Jason.
Okay, just 3 quick things to update you on that are going on and have gone on recently. The city of Beatrice will begin an infrastructure, which means technology and wiring in our world today, project on the east side of Lincoln Elementary, and they needed a property easement to start that. So we did grant that property easement to them. I'm not sure exactly when that project starts. I think it'll be in the very near future here, but they'll be installing, I think, fiber optic cable and some other things. They've reassured us that they'll do their due diligence to make sure that the children know that it's roped off and so forth. So earlier you heard me talk about the FEMA program, and recently, well, last year during the entire COVID process, which was unpleasant for everybody, it still is, but we did apply for reimbursement through the federal government for all of the expenses related to the purchase of cleaning and disinfecting materials, protective personal equipment, barriers, face masks, gloves, thermometers to check and try and monitor everybody's temperatures and all those things. We were awarded $18,348.39. There was $16 we didn't get awarded in that entire grant process. So I just want to take a moment to say thank you to Jackie Bornemeyer in our district office, who was very diligent about being on those meetings with the FEMA representatives and helping gather all that information and make sure that we had it to submit on time to be eligible for that. So essentially, we get $18,348.39 back. We do have another part of that grant request out, or reimbursement request out, but how the process works is it takes quite a while to get through. So we did hear back on that part. We'll hear back on the second part in the near future, I would imagine. The last thing is just kind of a spin-off of our committee of the whole meeting last month. I wanted all of you to know that we greatly appreciated the communication that we were able to share back and forth with you, and that really is the beginning process of discussing that 5,000 article that's very deep and involved with curriculum and instruction and teaching and all those things that come in it. So we will have further discussions with you about those things, and specifically about the item we talked about last month in the committee of the whole as well. And I don't want to steal Mr. Suter's thunder, but I also want you to know that he's been working very hard on trying to line up more dual college credit courses with SCC, and we'll get this information out. We just met last week with them and kind of finalized some things. But next year, we will have another college algebra class for dual credit course, college English composition for dual credit purposes, sociology, psychology, and public speaking are all in the works, but they haven't quite been finalized. SCC has been tremendously helpful in trying to move that forward to help out our students that are in high school, would like to earn some college credits before they move on, and we're working very closely with them to get all that done. We do know, as I said, college algebra and college English are already scheduled, lined up. We'll be getting that information out to parents soon, and then hopefully sociology, psychology, and public speaking are right in behind that. So just kind of a quick update as to some of the work that Mr. Suter's been doing and some things that will be coming our way. And that's all I have for now.
All right, anybody have any comments or questions for Jason? All righty. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be January 10th, 2022 at 7 p.m. in the Administration Building. An agenda for the meeting, which shall be kept continually current, is readily available for public inspection at the Superintendent's office during normal business hours. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 adjourn.
I have a motion, I have a second by Aaron. Can I have your votes, please? And we are adjourned.